Call this meeting to order. We all stand for flag salute, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to the approval of the agenda. Today we have a Sexual Assault Awareness Month proclamation, other presentations and proclamations. We'll also be entertaining resolution 040325, appointment of the PBZ board. And another business will consider an application for authorized emergency vehicle permit. I have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Moving on to consent agenda. Minutes are provided in your packet for March 27th meeting. Is there any discussion around the minutes? Have you guys reviewed that? Any changes you want to make?
I'm good.
Good. Moving on, accounts payable, $379,022.76. Got hand checks going out for $298.50. Special check for $39,410. Utilities wire for $19,975.96. SD security wire for $4,617. Indigent defense wire, $17,400. Added tax of $24, abated tax of $48.32.
I'd move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No commissioner, moving on to commissioner comments. I'll start with you, Ron.
Yes, spent yesterday afternoon at the Detention Center, Junction City. Go through things with the folks there, and everything's going well, obviously, and they're doing a great job. Some turnover on employees. Other than that, we're looking good. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Ron.
Yesterday, I attended a meeting in Salinas for the North Central Kansas Highway Officials Association. And at that particular meeting, Martin Tannehill was nominated and is becoming the vice president of that group. And also Chancey Smith gave a presentation on emergency management, did a great job. And just more of a review of what had happened at that winter storm that all of us experienced here in Kansas. And on that, they had people from KDOT and LTAP and others gave presentations, but just talking a little bit about some of the process and procedures for application for the projects and some of the things that are involved. And it's a great networking type thing because there's several counties from North Central Kansas that are there. I say North Central Kansas, but McPherson, which I consider more Central Kansas, they're part of that group also, and Morris County and Marion and so on. But anyway, it was a good meeting. And then I did note we've got a meeting coming up March 21st that I plan to attend through the 23rd at Manhattan. I think they're having the Women's Republican Party is having their guest night that night, which is kind of unfortunate on that Monday. So that's kind of in conflict with that particular meeting in Manhattan.
You mean May, correct?
April.
April,
April.
sorry.
Yeah, I said March. I meant April. Yes, thank you.
I will attend that guest night.
Okay.
The Republican Party, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
But then you can still go to the meetings on the Manhattan if you so chose.
That's the County Commissioners Annual Association meeting.
Oh,
Yes.
I didn't know that.
It's
So there's an
Tuesday and Wednesday there in Manhattan. So
Okay.
I will forward you an agenda. Well, they don't have the agenda set yet, but I'll forward you the information about it.
I'd like to do our guest night. I'll give them a little bit of an update from the commissioner standpoint. So if you
okay.
guys wanted me to update them on anything you're working on, you could give that to me and I could give them an update.
Okay.
Just for the county purposes.
Because I think they did ask to have someone from the county speak, or all the elected officials. And so.
So do you think you're going to come back for it too, Lynn, as well? So we get on the calendar?
I think I'll go ahead and stay there in Manhattan rather than go back and forth.
Why don't we do that? He'll do Manhattan.
But now, on the Manhattan thing too, I don't know what Ron's plans are or yours, but it's not like you have to go all 3 days. I mean, you can go for one session or two in the morning on Tuesday or that afternoon.
Okay.
But they do bring up, it's a little bit like our annual meeting that we have for KAC. And it's all the counties from across, I mean, all the counties in Kansas that are members participate. So there'll probably be a few hundred people there,
Okay.
mostly county commissioners, administrators, and KAC staff. And then they have their own board of directors on the county association for that too.
Okay.
That's all I have.
I don't have very much this week. I met with a representative from Tracy Mann's office in conjunction with the EDC director, Jessica Goodale. Talked about a lot of things. We talked about economic development, the industrial park going into Abilene. I don't even know. We had talked about everything economically going on in the county, really trying to represent that the county and all the organizations therein are working together to economically develop this county. We also told them about some of our workforce initiatives, which is working on retention of the youth in the county. Just good overview of what we got going on. We did talk to them about possibly helping us with housing, how they could assist us there. He brought up the ROS grant, I believe it is. And we talked about that for quite a length. Overall, I thought it was a great meeting. It was a good insight. I think it gave us a little bit of representation with Representative Mann's office. I hope they hear what we had to say and we can get something out of it. That is all I have to offer today. All right. Any more discussion? Moving on to presentation of petitions and proclamations. Carly, would you come on up, state your name and doing it.
I'm Carly Sinkler, and I am the campus sexual assault advocate at EVA in Salina. And we are asking to have April 2025 proclaimed Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and I'll get started with the proclamation. Whereas April is also recognized as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, a time to educate the public about the prevalence of sexual violence, raise awareness about its devastating impact, and promote efforts to prevent it from occurring in our communities. And whereas 1 in 2 women and nearly 1 in 3 men will experience some form of contact sexual violence in their lifetime, highlighting the broad and widespread impact of sexual assault across all genders. Whereas a rape is reported to law enforcement every 7 hours, 51 minutes, and 23 seconds in the state of Kansas, demonstrating the urgent and ongoing need to address this issue at local and state levels. And whereas, according to the Kansas Bureau of Investigations, the overwhelming majority of rape victims are female, 94.6%, and 62.3% are under the age of 25. The offenders are most often male, 88.7%, with the highest percentage of offenders being between the ages of 15 and 20. I'm also going to throw in, I didn't say this in there, but females also are guilty of sexual violence just as much as males. So sorry for my ad lib in there. Whereas the crime of rape is spread relatively evenly throughout the week, with Saturdays being the most frequent day, accounting for 18.1% of incidents. These crimes are most likely to occur between midnight and 2 a.m., a critical window for awareness and prevention efforts. And whereas in Dickinson County, 10 incidents of rape were reported, and I'm highlighting the word reported because that doesn't count all the ones that weren't. In 2023, only 1 arrest was made, which means that only 10% of reported incidents resulted in arrest. This illustrates the serious gaps in accountability, justice, and support for survivors of sexual violence. And whereas many survivors face significant barriers to justice, such as fear of not being believed, victim blaming, lack of resources, and a reluctance to come forward due to trauma and stigma. These challenges lead to underreporting and insufficient accountability for offenders. And whereas the social stigma surrounding sexual violence often silences survivors, making it harder for them to seek the help they need and perpetuating a cycle of violence and inaction. This stigma further contributes to the challenges of combating sexual violence in our communities. And whereas we must continue to raise awareness of these statistics and show that survivors of sexual violence receive the support and justice they deserve, and take action to improve our response systems and prevention programs to reduce the occurrence of sexual violence in our communities. Whereas the Domestic Violence Association of Central Kansas, also known as DVAC, provides 24/7, 365 free, confidential, and voluntary support to victims of sexual violence in Dickinson County. And whereas DVAC advocates are available 24/7 at 785-827-5862 or toll free at 1-800-874-1499. And so we're asking you to proclaim April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
Thank you. I'll make a brief statement. I think if anybody's going to hear this or get this message, if you know anybody who's having some issues, please call DVAC. Don't wait till it becomes a criminal act, or you know what I'm saying. Please be proactive if you can. I know I read statistics. It was like 70 or 80% of these don't even get reported,
Exactly.
maybe more than that.
Yeah.
So how many are out there struggling through it? So I think it's important for the county and the residents of the county to support these victims. And I think this is a pretty easy choice. I'll open up for discussion.
Well, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we adopt that resolution officially, and
I'll second that motion. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Congratulations. We'll get you a signed copy.
Yeah.
I would get through that part of signing it or approving it and so on, but how is it you work with here in Dickinson County so you can be available to victims or educational? So how, do people call you? Do they call the 911 first? Is it through a counselor? Or?
They have the right to do whatever they choose. So if specifically after hours, weekends, overnights, if someone has been sexually assaulted, then if they've contacted law enforcement, usually they're probably, I'm guessing, heading to Salina for a sexual assault kit. Or if even here in Abilene, they decide to go there. If we are called, we have to be there within 30 minutes. And we respond, we talk with the survivor about our services, that we're there to support them in a non-judgmental manner. That can be holding their hand through the kit. That can be speaking with law enforcement before or after, answering questions that they might have, making sure they're going to have a safe place to return to. Because safety's the name of our game. So that's really important. Just even giving them the validation that we know this happened to you. We believe you. This is not your fault. No one ever does anything that should result in sexual violence. It's not okay. And that can be even following the court proceedings with them. Our court advocates here usually, I think, once a week anymore. So we try to support them in every manner we can. Whatever they come to us and tell us, we're going to do our best to do that.
And beyond that scope, even domestic violence
Yes.
included. Sometimes you provide safe houses or
Yes.
ongoing counseling so you have people in every county pretty much, or a support network, or
We all so DVAC does serve 10 counties here in basically Dickinson, Saline, Ellsworth to Nebraska. So we have an outreach office that is in Concordia, and they cover a lot of the northern counties. However, there's only one safe shelter, so we do a lot of transporting and we drive all over the place. So that is part of our job. We go where people need us. And I know for myself as a campus advocate and as a long-term advocate at DVAC, we do a lot of presenting about these issues. We have some really cool activities planned this month. We have a new sexual assault advocate who's hit the ground running and done an amazing job of coming up with some new things. So we are always presenting, educating, talking about consent as much as possible, even from little tiny kids about your body is your own and nobody gets to touch it, to anybody and everybody.
And what is your funding mechanism?
We are grant funded. I know that we lost a lot of our Victims of Crime Act funding due to federal government things. So a lot of us have moved to state funding for our positions, because I know that our administration attended Advocacy Day in February, and that was a big priority for them, because I know at least for our 10 counties, we have been kept hopping since COVID. We have been busy, and I know for myself, I've been at DVAC almost 9 years, and I haven't stopped at any point to do anything else. So I know that we've had people coming to shelter. We are a pet-friendly shelter, so that does attract other people from other counties and things of that nature also. Not everybody has that. And so, yeah, we just try to do what we can and support everyone, because everyone deserves that.
Something the public, if they chose to do, can they donate to you?
Yes, we do take donations in a couple ways. So monetary, that is amazing. It goes right into our programs to buy survivors things that our grants don't cover. So maybe that is somebody starting a job in fast food, needs non-slip black shoes. That's a frequent one. Grants aren't paying for that, but we can get them some shoes to start work. Or prescriptions. Maybe they were injured, maybe they're taking a preventative prescription for STIs, things of that nature. And so we do that. We have a thrift store, and it's called the Bargain Basket. It's actually located on the north end of our building. People can donate clothes, they can donate hygiene products, because we do give that not only for our shelter clients, but our outreach clients who may not be able to afford, and household goods. So when somebody leaves shelter, they're starting over completely. And so we try to hook them up with as much as we can so that they are successful long-term. So there's many ways to donate. There's lots of volunteer opportunities. We also take interns. We've had some practicum students from social work. So we are very open. We want people to know not only that we're there, but sometimes I think knowing the inside of what we do every day can be really helpful to, if you've met with us, then you're a little more comfortable if something does happen or it has happened.
You're giving us a phone number. Do you have a website people can visit?
We do. It is DVAC, DVACK.org. Sometimes it's up and sometimes it's down. I can't, I've gone on it a couple times and I was like, uh-oh. But we do have that. We also have Facebook, Instagram, and we post quite a bit on those through Facebook Messenger. I know that there's always somebody on the other end of that either in our safe shelter or one of us we get a lot of people that maybe they can't call, maybe they can't leave, but that's a covert way to get help. So we reach a lot of people that way too.
Well, thank you for your work.
Thank you. Should have got a signed copy.
And you have volunteers too. So if someone wants to volunteer, they need to get a hold of you if that's something they want to help in some way if they feel they could.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily, I talk about this because a lot of people are like, I don't think I could work with victims and survivors. That's really hard work. I don't. And so we also have a lot of opportunities. Maybe it's sorting our donations. Maybe it is helping put food away in the pantry or clean up, because sometimes we run through there and we grab and it kind of gets to be a mess. So sometimes there's things like that, or even helping with community events that is not maybe direct service to those survivors, but that is a huge impact. Those are a lot of times things we're scurrying to try to keep up and do, and it's really hard to keep up. I am going to shamelessly throw out 3 things before I'm done. During this month, of course, I have a ton of activities on both campuses. We also have a Balanced Nutrition, which is located next to the Planet Dillon's in a little shopping center. They have a drink, a SAM tea, which is Sexual Assault Awareness Month tea, that they were donating a proceed of that to DVAC this month, throughout the whole month. We have a really exciting fundraiser with La Curva, which is on Ohio Street in Salina. They are donating a portion of their profits on the 25th to anyone who goes in and enjoys a meal. One other thing that we are looking forward to is, personally, I have seen the rise in technological sexual violence. And so we're really talking about that issue. And so we have a documentary we are screening at the Salina Public Library called Another Body. It is talking about, it's a pretty new documentary. It was made by college students who unfortunately were the victims of deepfake abuse, where their faces were taken off social media and put into pornography. And so it appears that they are in the pornography versus, and so that's it's literally a thing.
I shouldn't laugh about that.
It's
That is insane.
Simply enough, I do a lot of these trainings.
It's
I
insane.
mean, it seems like it should be.
Yeah, and there's not any federal or really state laws yet fully on that. So, and of course, once you put something on the internet, there's no way to get it 100% off. So we see a lot more of that. We see sexual extortion, where a lot of cases, sometimes they pretend to be a girl and they get a guy specifically to send inappropriate pictures, and then they blackmail them.
Like predators out there.
Unfortunately, a lot of the victims of that are decent middle to upper class teenage boys because they will not tell. So we see these things happening more and more in
It
that.
could be international as well
Oh,
as
yeah.
someone in the region.
Last I knew, there's a group in Nigeria that's really bad about that. Like I said, I do a lot of these trainings because I'm trying to keep up with college students and technology, but the deep fakes, I mean, you would be horrified by how easy that is to do. You don't have to be an IT whiz to do it. It is, they showed me exactly how you do it during a webinar because they wanted to express how easy it is. And so,
I guess with AI, it's even easier now.
yeah, and I mean, they can take voices as well.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I could see that being really detrimental for especially our older population, because if they hear their child's voice begging for money or something. And so, yeah, we're seeing a lot more technological violence. We're seeing victims of this more frequently. It's really horrible because, like I said, it's not necessarily like direct victimization, but there are so many feelings that I've had a college students like, is my future going to be ruined? Am I going to be able to actually work in my career that I've worked so hard in college to try to get to? Because I don't know if these people are actually going to release this. So it's a very, very complex, sad situation. And like I said, there's not a lot of great remedies yet. We're hoping law will catch up with technology at some point, but as of now, it hasn't. So there's not a lot of recourse either.
Well, I think just the support you offer and the attempts to protect, well, we all have children and grandchildren, but I guess this could be any ages for that matter, but still, it's a real problem. And
It's a very different world.
Well, hopefully we'll bring a little bit more awareness to it. And I'm hoping maybe some folks that are listening and people in the community might get involved, maybe give you a donation, help you out a little bit. So,
Or even just, like I said, even the ability to just present to a group. We're here to
club or
talk about
something.
yeah,
any topic, and I guarantee you any topic, because I have talked about way more than I ever anticipated. So that is also always available, a phone call away.
have you talked to the Community Foundation at all? They seem to be involved with stuff like this in a roundabout way. Might be an interesting call. They might be able to help you get in front of more people.
Yeah, we'd have to check with our administrators on that. I know that we participate in some different things, or they have, and so I'd have to do some double checking, but that's a great idea.
Elizabeth Weeks is the director. I don't know what she can do to help you, but she could definitely bring the advocacy.
And
I
you
can
work
tell
with the
that.
schools also.
We tried. Schools can be very hard because a lot of parents think that we're telling them it's okay to have sex versus that's not what we're saying at all. We also understand that sometimes that happens during, unfortunately, middle and high school, which turns my stomach a little bit, but we want them to understand consent. We want them to understand healthy sexuality if that's what they're going to engage in. We want them to be asking questions, not being terrified, knowing that I had a college student who didn't realize that just because they were in a relationship, she still had to give consent. Or it was rape. It's still rape. And so those are still things we face. Like I said, I work with college students all day, every day, and I hear and see so many things.
Truly, there's still some no means no education out there. I mean, I remember that as a school.
Yes. And so, I mean, I actually went backwards a little bit at the colleges to what is healthy sex, what is safe sex, because I was hearing about STI numbers and everything else.
Yeah.
And so we've actually went backwards to that piece, which I never in my life thought sex education would be something I would be providing. But we've gone backwards to, if you don't know what is healthy, how do you know what is rape and sexual violence and consent if you don't start with the basics?
Good point.
And so we really try, even like I said, even the little kids that, hey, your body is your own. And if somebody touches it and it's in a way that's uncomfortable, you need to tell somebody. You know, consent can start there. So I think that's really important. It's been, like I said, hard to get into schools because sometimes they feel like they're topics that are just nobody wants to talk about.
Well, and I think with the schools too, they have lots of groups trying to help in so many areas that within their curriculum, at some point, they focus on the educational piece. But anyway, as a society and as a community, I mean, we just need the safety and protection and information to get to people. And
Yes, I agree.
thank you for your work and your proclamation.
Thank you very much.
Give it up.
Trust me, I will. I've been doing this for long enough.
I do trust you on that. Thank you. We'll open up for any public comments. Before we do that, Janelle, read the rules.
For the Open Meetings Act, KSA 75-4317 and 75-4318A, as the elected board, the county commission is not allowed to meet or make any decisions without posting the meeting. They are only allowed to act on the items on the agenda which they set. During their regular meeting, the county commission may allow for public comments on items not listed on the approved agenda. It is at the discretion of the county commission if they allow comments on agenda items. If you wish to provide comments, please come forward to the podium and state your name and address. If you are online, raise your hand and we will unmute you. Please state your name and address. Each person may speak for 3 minutes. The allotted time will start after the speaker has given his or her name and address. Public comments shall be addressed to the county commission only and not to the speaker or the audience. Excuse me. Only the county commission will be permitted to ask the speaker questions. The public comment period is not a back and forth discussion with the county commission. You should make your views and input known to them, but it is not a time to ask them questions. You should not expect them to respond to your comments. Comments may express support or agreement with the previous speakers, but in the interest of time, please do not repeat the same information. You may state something to the effect of your name and address and you agree with the previous speaker. It is important to maintain a respectful, non-threatening atmosphere for anyone who would like to speak. Please do not engage in such actions as cheering, booing, clapping, insults, threats, etc.
Thank you. We'll stay for the record. Or do we have any hands? Doesn't look like it.
No, we do not.
Briefly, I'll state we had a gentleman come in during work session and made a comment about the encryption of the 800 radio system. We brought in,
Alyssa Boss.
Alyssa Boss to kind of educate us on that. And we're going to take a look at it, making sure that we aren't excluding information that the public might want. It did seem, I'll say for the record, that we are following the regulations that are set forth by us by Project 25. But that's really all I got to add, but I thought I'd add that to the official record. That way it was there.
And Janelle, you've mentioned we have an advisory board, but also I think the sheriff weighs in. Maybe
Advisory,
he's on the advisory board, is he, or someone
the
from?
undersheriff is. We have representatives from law enforcement, fire, and EMS from across the districts or the county, the departments in the county, so.
So, and to add to that, the comment was made, well, the fire department won't know what's going on, but in my mind, the 911 advisory board suggested we do this, and the fire department and the EMS are on that board.
And they agreed to the encryption on the law.
So I don't think there's a miscommunication, I guess.
Well, and that's dispatch's responsibility. So if there's something going on that law enforcement needs to have fire there, they will contact dispatch on the radio per the practice that we've had and let them know they need fire to respond. And this is the channel they need to communicate on.
Rest assured, we have a method
Yes.
to get the information out to who needs it.
The other thing I'd add to that is, before that question came up, the sheriff had mentioned that they now have the handheld radios, that they're somewhat compact and so on. But the thing is, they can hear and they can communicate.
Right.
And that was one of the leading challenges that we were trying to take care of with this whole system too, is that there were times that law enforcement could be in a building or a low spot or something, and they could not communicate or hear communication of what was going on. And if it was in a, potentially very serious or such situation, which, I mean, we don't hear it all, but we know they are all the time.
Just to add to that, I don't want to misquote Chancey here, but I think he said during the snowstorm, did he have 800 radio at that time?
Highway department utilized the.
And they could talk to Geary, right?
You can talk across the state. Our EMS staff have been using them for 10 plus years, and they can be in Kansas City on transport and talk back to our dispatch.
Our emergency director was communicating with emergency director over in Geary.
Yes,
I mean,
right.
we wouldn't have had that before.
No, we did not.
Essential.
Essential.
Unless he got on the horn.
We were operating on a 30-plus-year-old system, and basically we were in a donut hole, so we could not communicate with our neighboring counties either. So moving to the 800 system, the state system is going to allow us to have that communication, and it's a safety feature, definitely. So, but there are federal regulations that we have to follow.
If the public's curious, Project 25 is where the steering committee that proposes those regulations, that's where this is all coming from. Our 911 advisory board is adhering to the Project 25 regulations. If there's any questions, I'll go read up on it, but I'd encourage the public to do the same. Moving on, we'll start with reports from county officers. County Administrator Janelle Doctor.
Commissioners, the Public Works Department has completed the bridge at 1629 Key Road and now started work at 1800 Avenue and Key Road on another replacement. Tomorrow, we have the bid opening for the 3 bridges that are next up in the rotation, and that's at 240 Rain, 345 Rain, and 200 500 Avenue. That's tomorrow downstairs at 11, and hopefully the bids come in at a reasonable amount. The emergency manager will participate in a full-scale exercise on Saturday with surrounding departments, and that's actually in Ottawa County. That's again another project or exercise that he does pretty regularly, but the other counties also do that. So as Lynn had noted, we attended the North Central Kansas County Highway Association's meeting yesterday. It was very, very helpful. A lot of good information coming out from KDOT on projects that they have, and then the communication with other counties around us. We do have an open RN position in the health department, open deputy positions in the sheriff's department, and a paramedic position in EMS. And that's all I would have unless you have any questions for me.
One thing I might mention is in the work study session, Kenny, if you'd want to, or Janelle, on the opioid funding, that we did have an additional request. And so procedurally, I thought you had a great idea on how to approach that, because we do get numerous requests. So you might share that with the public.
Sure. We had a request from the Community Advisory Board for the 8th Judicial District. I'm still, bear with me, I'm still trying to remember all these things. But they had requested some funds for the drug court, recovery court. Right now, round about $45,000 is what they're requesting. That would cover the defense attorney for recovery court as well as the drug testing that's required during that. They stated that drug testing can occur, or it does occur 3 times a week for participants in the drug recovery court. So right now that cost comes out from the county, out of the general fund. And so the request has been made to pay for that with the opioid dollars. Something I added to that later in the discussion is that I really want to open this up to a grant process. We've had 3 or 4 folks, or I guess 2 or 3 folks come to us, all great ideas, amazing ideas that are going to help the community. And if we just pick the first one in line, we're going to run out of money. So I think a grant process is in order to allow us to review those, make sure we're putting it where it needs to go, or the best fitted organization gets it. It makes the most sense for the county. You know, to add to that, something we have already operating as a drug recovery court, I think it makes a lot of sense that the county would consider that heavily before funding any other new operations, considering we already have one running and it's drawing out of the general fund. But with that being said, I still want to open this up to a grant process and have all of these applicants fill out a grant. Part of that grant process will be a proposed budget as well as an org chart to kind of give us an idea of who's going to be managing it and who's in charge, essentially. So there'll be some
Marcus, you might mention what the funding stream is on that, because it's not an exact where this year we got this and next year we'll get this. And
yeah, it's settlement funds, so it's spread out throughout all the counties, the cities receive a portion of it, and so we don't really know. It's all based on what dollars come in each year, and so we don't actually know what's going to come in. It's not always going to be consistent, but last year we brought in we received $59,000 from the opioid settlement funds. So we're anticipating and hoping that continues, so that we'd have these opportunities to fund some of these organizations moving forward. It sounds like that settlement, another large company recently settled, and so there could be even additional funding coming in these future years. We also, other funding that we've used for drug court in the past, the community foundation did help so that we could get that kick started in the beginning of that program. So there was a $25,000 grant that was put into a drug court fund that we are operating right now. We do pull off of that for certain expenses, and so if we were to pull directly from that fund, that would probably last about a year and a half, roughly off that $25,000. So a significant amount of the funding has come from the general fund, like Kenny mentioned earlier, where I think just the commitment to get that program started in the beginning, the county chose to make sure that those costs were covered in the first place. So now this may provide some additional funding that may help us to sustain the program in the future.
so do you get a check in the mail, or you just get notified that there's going to be a transfer that this, because we don't know what we're going to get this month, for example, until it actually happens, or next month?
It's a distribution that's similar to like when we receive tax distributions from the state. Leah will receive that into our bank account, like a direct ACH transaction. So that's typically how those come, and then I'll get notified from Leah that those have arrived.
It doesn't come monthly though. I mean, it's sparing. It could be 3
a month or
months, two. Right.
Yeah, and 2024 was really our first year of receiving a full year's worth of this since the settlement fund started. So
The amount's never the same.
it hasn't been the same yet. So we'll see as these years go on if there's some consistency, and then we can really have a better idea for planning or even a grant application process. When you kind of roughly know what funding you're going to have each year, it may help us to know how much we can distribute out to these organizations.
I think it's in order. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, and tell me if I am, but should we have staff meet, come back with some recommendations, maybe next week or the week following, about what a grant program is going to look like for us?
Yeah, that's possible. Yes. Yeah. Maybe on the next week is pretty full. So
I know, that's what I was saying, maybe the week after.
But we do need that process, because the 8th Judicial would probably like an answer at some point,
Yep.
the other group. And so we'll,
Why don't we get to work on it? And
is that Ron, we good with that?
does that sound all right, Ron?
Yep, it's good.
And my thought would, we would award that grant. I'm hoping, I was thinking August. Only because now this isn't guaranteed, but last year we received the bulk of that money in August. I guess the dream, my perfect world would be we would award a grant and then we'd have the money come in. We kind of have a better idea where the fund's going.
And when I was with the city of Abilene, we did start a program similar to this with the alcohol funds that were in place to where what we did was we knew how much we received previous years. You kind of had to wait a year before the funds were available. And then we knew, so as 2024 came in, right now we would be opening the grant application process now to receive the 2024 funds, because then we'd know how much those dollars were. So you'd actually be operating, because when you're operating in the now, we don't know what we're receiving yet. And so that worked in this case because we do have some funding from last year. We do have an opportunity to look at those funds, what's available totally, which is around $82,000 right now. But that was a beneficial process that we used, because even those alcohol funds, it was only around $14,000 to $15,000, but it was a very similar situation that occurred. There had been a couple of years that those weren't used. It climbed up to around $50,000 to $60,000. And then we had a lot of organizations all at the same time. Once one came to the table, a few others heard that, hey, there's funding available. And so we had a lot of applications just like this. They're all very deserving. All the programs sound great. It's actually really hard to pick and choose who is going to receive what. So I think having a good set program would be beneficial for the county.
And I think this is going to continue for 15 years.
It was 18 total.
18 years. So I think setting up a process is in order. If we're going to be dealing with this, it's not going to just be us. Eventually there'll be new commissioners. And I think getting a process is going to make a lot more sense.
And if the public or another group asks a question, then we have something that this is the criteria that was used in the process. And
Exactly.
And we could possibly try to provide you guys with a few different options to kind of see what the best way of going about it is, because it's still hard to pick a dollar amount. If someone comes to the table and asks for 50,000 and someone else asks for 5, it might be easy to give the 5, but it's really hard on 50. And then even though the program is deserving and needs that fund. So we ended up breaking it down to where, sadly, if you were a organization that qualified and had a qualifying reason, if there was $10,000 and you had 4 qualifying applications, they pretty much all received $2,500. If there were 2 applications, they each were going to receive $5,000, because picking and choosing winners and losers became very difficult, because once again, everybody was very deserving. So it was a challenging situation. Actually, giving away money, I found in government,
It's pretty hard.
Very challenging.
the community foundation, they're kind of experts at this too. So we could probably gather some information from them, but also, and this is just personal, and maybe you'd have other ideas, but I'm not looking for some 20-page document that they have to just go through a lot. But then again, it shouldn't be a 3-question, or it should be more than 1 page, obviously. So
Yeah, I would agree. I don't want to drill them to death, but a plan is really what I'm looking for. What's your plan? How are how are you going to execute the plan? I want to ensure that the we got to make sure it's not go to waste. So especially when we have good programs that are working, that we could help. So that's kind of where I'm at with that too. But I'm with you. I don't think a 30-page application is going to help us either.
save the paper.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you guys convene, come back in a few weeks? Why don't we just go ahead and schedule that in 2 weeks on a work session?
Sounds good.
Thank you. County Councilor Doug Thompson.
Yeah. Well, we've got a number of things we're working on, one of which is the tax sale. I'll have a date for you here next time we meet, and so that we'll know when that sale will be. And then I want to get another one done before the end of the year, so we can get caught back up from when we couldn't do it before. And so that's what we're going to be working with that. This past week, I was in Branson with the recovery team. And I'm part of the team in Junction City and in Abilene in Dickinson County. And we went to Branson. There was probably 800 to 1,000 people who were there for training and so forth. And we were there from Tuesday through Friday, into Friday. And classes were, there were people who addressed the whole crowd of 800 to 1,000. And then we broke off into different groups and worked forward with that. And never seen anything like this. Never seen anything like it at all. Because this is, it's frightening. You know, we listened to the people who were, when we've got 800 to 1,000 people in, and then when we break off into groups and to study this part here, and I would listen to them when they're talking about, well, here's what's going on in our area, and the numbers are continuing to grow, and it feels like it's a losing race and a losing battle, and but there's a ton of effort for it, and I don't know how this is going to run out in the long run. I've never seen anything like this. I've seen a lot of bad things in my life, through the military, through other all kinds of things. I've never seen anything like this. And we're talking about kids that, well, you pick the age, 12, 14, and then right on up, and the people my age at the other end of it, and why, and we have some of that right here in our own area. We had the recovery. We had a program that we did yesterday, and there was we had one woman that's probably 70, test positive. 70. Couldn't even walk. We had to bring medical to come up, pick her up. I don't know what the final result is for her, but it's, and now it's easy to say those things about a number of people because you can say, well, we're just going the wrong way. If you look at the totality of it, it is in the wrong way. But there are pockets that are, yes, I'm working back out of this. The part that I just don't understand is how you can be in a program and you know that you're going to be tested. So can you not avoid the drug and knowing that you're going to be tested? And the answer is no. For many people, cannot do it. Say you're going to be tested on Tuesday. Okay, yeah. And then you test positive. And then there's consequences. You'll do 48 hours in jail. This will happen. Other things will happen. I just have a tough time understanding that, how that part works, that it can be that addictive that you can't avoid it even when you know you're going to be tested. I don't get it. But we had breakout groups, and we had good leaders who have been involved in this for a while to help, and they had good ideas, but the good ideas are only as good as they are for the others who are there. And if they want to get out of it, and I mean, I've seen them with, as we talked about it up there, just like I do here. You've got families who have just literally collapsed from it, and the divorces from it, and all kinds of everything you can imagine, and so.
Is there a particular substance that is worse that's causing this to all of a sudden is fentanyl the cause of this?
It's certainly a good portion of it. Yeah.
But I mean, we've always had major drug problems or drug problems in the United States, but is fentanyl really the thing that's driving it over the edge?
Yeah, that, but it's all, any form of meth and marijuana, and you can pick them out because it just, I just have never seen anything like it. I've never been around anything like that people can't say, I'll quit. Now, they're by the same token, just like what we have in our program going through, there are some who can get it turned around. The numbers are small, but they can get it going, can change. And hopefully, when they graduate from it, I'm done with it. I am done with it. I won't slide back into it because of the tremendous amount of damage that it does to you, your relationships, your families, your jobs, everything. And so it's very difficult, but it was certainly nice to be up there in Branson and looking at there's 800 to 1,000 people, and their conversations are all the same. What we're talking about. Well, here's what's going on in where we are. Here's what's going on over here, and they're very similar. And now, they're all right. You made it through, but the numbers are small. But I'm glad for those who can make it through it. So that's what I had last week, and we'll go from there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't believe we have any notices or communications. I'll move on to introduction and consideration resolutions. Resolution 040325 is for the appointment of the Public Zoning and Planning Board. If you look, we had a redraft of this resolution. Resolutions, do I need to read this? Okay.
You just summarize it or
So
heading.
we briefly spoke at the beginning in study session and now in work session. It seemed like Barb Barrett was among our top choices. I went ahead and instructed Janelle to put Barb Barrett's name in here for the appointment. Barb Barrett lives at 1608 1900 Avenue, Hope, Kansas. A part of this decision, on my behalf anyway, was to get good representation in the southern part of the county on this planning and zoning board. With that being said, I'm going to open it up for any more discussion.
So we have 3 really good candidates, and then the other 2 we can keep on file.
Yep.
If there's an additional opening. I'd go ahead and make the motion that we adopt that resolution 040325 for the appointment to the PBZ board with Barb Barrett as being the one selected.
And this is a 3-year term.
For a 3-year term. I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Congratulations to Barb Barrett, if you want to let her know.
I think she's online, so
Congratulations, Barb. We'll get I don't know if you want the signed one, but.
we just need one copy signed.
And it's probably the one you gave me, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
There might be some others things that we need to sign too, that we can.
Yeah. I'm gonna go on to the last.
Barb just noted, she says, thank you, looking forward to serving the county and working with you.
Likewise. Thank you, Barb, for your time and your commitment to the county. Moving on to no unfinished business, we do have another business to consider the application for authorized emergency vehicle permit. If I understand this correctly, this is to put emergency equipment, emergency lighting on a deputy fire chief.
On a fire chief and a police chief, actually, in this case, and it's on their personal vehicles.
Personal vehicles.
And that by statute, that is the responsibility of the county commission.
So we have to approve it. The expense is coming out of them personally. I've been made aware. So there's no expense to the county, merely us approving and allow them to do so.
And the whole idea is so someone just can't randomly do that or self-appoint, but it has to go through the protocol.
And they do have the emergency manager, the sheriff also, and then the chief or fire chief in that district that they're in also has to sign off and approve it. And then insurance also plays into this, and Chancey, as part of his job as emergency manager, also would look into that.
I move that we approve that application for the authorized emergency vehicle permits.
I'll second that motion. I will add a piece that you guys obviously can't see this paper, but they have signed off on this, the other parties that we just listed. I'll call for, all those in favor say aye. 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 Motion carries. Which one? Do I sign this in the packet or this one?
You can sign that, and that's fine. There should be 2 of them.
Yep. Second, right.
There's one if you need it. There's 2 places to sign.
Yeah, I think I'm doing this one.
Two
right
applications.
there. There you
No, I've got a copy of it, so.
go. Yep. Okay, that concludes our business for today. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Adjourned.